Hello everyone and welcome back to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy where we showcase Magic's most powerful formats. My name is Eugene and I am going to be your commentator tonight for this round 2 from May 3rd. On the left we have Alex playing his Enchantress deck. This is a deck that likes to abuse, enter the battlefield, or cast triggers with enchantments, with cards like Sithis, Harvest Hand, and Argothian Enchantress, and Enchantress's Presence. So every time that Alex is casting enchantment, which is basically his entire deck, he's drawing a ton of cards and getting a ton of advantage. And once he's able to kind of block out the opponent with all sorts of control spells, he plays either Hallowed Haunting or Destiny Spinner to create a win condition and just overwhelm the opponent in the late game. On the right, you have myself piloting Jund Goblins. So this list is basically you just have a bunch of goblins and they all do different things, and typically you want to land a goblin lackey on turn 1, and if you can get Muxus into play on turn 2, that's going to be best case scenario and just completely overwhelm your opponent with an aggro advantage. And if that doesn't work out, this does have a backup combo win condition with Conspicuous Snoop, Boggart Harbinger, and Kiki Jiki, where you can make infinite copies of the Snoop and sack them all with the Sling Gang Lieutenant. So we have a control versus aggro match. Let's get it started. So we have Alex on the play here, just starting with a Wild Growth, or no, that's a Utopia Sprawl, being able to use his mana to create even more mana and getting a lot of these 1 mana. They turn into cantrips basically by increasing his mana output, but also getting to draw extra cards by landing Sithis and getting all of those extra draw triggers. Just a Conspicuous Snoop on my side. This card can by itself be the win condition. If you see a Kiki Jiki on the top of your deck or a Boggart Harbinger with 3 mana, then you're all set and you can win on the spot. So hoping for a turn 3 combo win here. We see Alex spinning his wheels a little bit here. Can generate 5 mana already with the 3 lands in play. Taps for 3. Decides to go for a Presence. This is going to allow him to draw even more cards. So with that Sithis, even though the legendary rule applies because it's an enchantment, he gets to draw 2 extra cards and gain a life. Did not see the Harbinger on top of the deck, and I think the problem here, there might be a Harbinger in hand, but no black mana, can't cast the spell. So going for an attack. Oh, that's not an Enchantress's Presence, that's an Argothian Enchantress. So the Argothian Enchantress, super hard to deal with because it has Shroud. Can't target it. But if you can kind of deal 1 damage to everything in play, or if you can give -1/-1 to everything, then you can get rid of Enchantress that way. See Alex tapping some mana, another Wild Growth, 2 draw triggers, just really keeping his hand completely full. And here is one of the win conditions, Hallowed Haunting. So this is going to generate spirits every time that he casts an enchantment spell. So with all of these cantrips, obviously, going to see a lot of 1/1 spirits. And then when they gain flying and vigilance, it's basically game over. We see a Goblin Ringleader come into play, revealing the top 4 cards, hitting all sorts of relevant goblins, but without any mana to cast them. Kind of in trouble here. Coming across for a little bit of damage still, while I still can. Go to discard because I had 8 cards off of that really good Ringleader trigger. Gonna play Open, just a common courtesy at the store. Not really comp REL, so I don't have to pick up all my cards, have my opponent write everything down. Alex trying to decide what to do here with all of his mana. Plays a Miri's Guile, just a 1 mana. It's not really a scry, but you get to look at the top 3 cards of your library every turn before you draw, so it can set up a lot of really good draws, especially if you have Enchantress effects already online. Has the 1 green mana floating, uses 2 to play the Destiny Spinner, a secondary win condition, being able to turn his lands into huge beaters, since they're XX equal to the number of enchantments in play, which I think at this point is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 nines with Trample and Haste? Yes, sir. A lot of damage. We see that On Thin Ice come down. This is going to take the Conspicuous Snoop, and I concede to that, as there is no way out of that scenario for me. I was really hoping to have the combo take me to victory there, but if you don't have the combo piece, you can't win. So we just see a Goblin Lackey come down for me. Goblin Lackey hoping to connect here, have a big play. No responses from Alex, but it's just a Goblin Matron. Looking at the hand, trying to decide, am I going to get a second attack in here? And I decide, no, probably not. Alex was nice enough of him to let me hit him once with the Goblin Lackey. So go for the Conspicuous Snoop to try and set up a combo. Have the black mana this time, have an extra land, so all I need to see now is a Goblin Harbinger. The Harbinger, of course, putting the Goblin on top of the deck. We see a Sithis from Alex. And that's a pass. So just the 1-2. Still a good blocker for the Lackey. Getting in for 4 here. Alex trying to decide if it's worth blocking the Goblin Matron. Decides that I might have some shenanigans, so just takes the extra 1 damage, which allows me to cast the Earwig Squad, which, when you cast for Prowl, you get to take 3 cards out of your opponent's deck and exile them. So my thought process here was take away all of his win conditions, because the Enchantress deck doesn't run a ton of win conditions. So I got that hallowed thing from the last turn. I'll bring it up. So I went and grabbed Hallowed Haunting, got that out of there. I was able to grab one of the Destiny Spinners, and then from the sideboard I grabbed a Doomwake Giant, as Doomwake Giant can really destroy my board presence. All of my little goblins don't have that much health. So a Doomwake Giant and a couple of enchantments, 1 mana enchantments, this is the end of my day. He still does have 1 Destiny Spinner in his deck, and he actually had 1 in his hand, so I was not able to get all of the win conditions. Volrath's Stronghold coming down. Being able to take a goblin or a creature that is in the graveyard, put it on top of the deck. If I'm in a position that my creatures die and I want to get something back on top, I can try and set up a combo that way. Still viable for the beats option here. So coming in for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Deciding to block the Lackey. Taking 8 damage, got him down to 9. Sacrifice the Mom for the Goblin Matron to the Skirk Prospector for an extra mana. And see a couple goblins off of the top. Nothing too relevant. The Crater Maker, Goblin Crater Maker, can kill the Sithis with its activated ability and the Lackey, but didn't see any real point of trading anything out since I'm already tapped out here. Pass it back to Alex. Alex tapping 2 green. Playing another Wild Growth. Alex, of course, playing tons of basics to make sure that his mana is very resistant to the Wasteland. Because if he was dropping all of these extra enchantments on non-basics and they got wasted, it would be a huge tempo swing. Alex losing just a ton of tempo there. But as you can see, he doesn't really care, even though he has only basic forests in play. He has 2 lands that can access white mana here. One of them tapping for 2 and one of them tapping for 3. He cares so very little about having access to natural white mana that even with that Windswept Heath, he went and got the forest. We see an Abundant Growth, which is going to be basically a cantrip. Gets another enchantment in play and itself draws a card. And with Sithis, it's actually drawing 2 cards as it enters the battlefield. Raw card advantage. We see Commune with the Spirits to look at the top 4 and grab an enchantment. I think that was a whiff, though. It has to be, oh, enchantment or land. Maybe I just missed which enchantment he grabbed. See another Utopia Sprawl on the forest that just came in. Got it completely loaded up, so this thing's tapping for 2 as well. Drawing a lot of extra cards here. Look at that, Swords to Plowshares. He's ready for the Snoop. We're seeing the On Thin Ice come down. Getting that conspicuous Snoop, but I decide to sacrifice it for mana instead. So if I want to, I can grab it with the Volrath Stronghold. I know the video quality just got a little worse there. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, and when we put the camera back up, accidentally set it to manual instead of auto. So this is kind of what it's going to look like. So Alex had to discard 7 cards there because he had drawn so many extra cards. So he went to discard with a full grip, passing it back. Untap, draw that mountain that I know about. Even though the Snoop is not in play, we just forgot to flip it over. Trying to decide if I was going to put the Snoop back on top of the deck. Decided against it. Looking at a bunch of wastelands in my hand. Useless mana. Basically just colorless sources at this point. A lot of thinking. Trying to see if I can dig myself out of this hole that Alex has created for me. Now that the Sterling Grove is in play, I can't actually target any of his enchantments besides the Sterling Grove. So this Crater Maker coming down isn't particularly useful. Using the Rashadan Port to try and tap down one of Alex's many lands that tap for just so much. We also see the Elephant Grass down, which is going to stop my creatures from attacking. Even though they're not black, they can still attack, but I have to pay 2 mana for each of them to attack. But black creatures are just out of luck. So Earwig Squad is toast. We see coming out of the sideboard an Engineered Plague. This is going to give all creatures in play with a specific type -1/-1. So it's like a Plague Engineer, but this is the original Plague Engineer, I suppose. See another Elephant Grass being revealed off of the Commune with Spirits. Now Alex can basically cycle these in between each other so that he doesn't have to pay a ton of mana into the cumulative upkeep. Pretty tough spot to be in for my Goblins. It's not completely hopeless, but it's pretty bad. Alex has all of his sources tapped now. I think it's my turn. Yep. I'm gonna drop a Blood Crypt. Don't have the Badlands. 3 mana for a Matron. It's gonna immediately die, but it does have an enter the battlefield effect. Grabbing that Harbinger. Hoping to set up the combo here. But seems like I'm several turns away from doing something like that, as don't even have a Snoop in play. Tapping, getting a ton of mana here. 3 mana from 1 forest. 2 green and a white. Use the white for the On Thin Ice. Draw 2 cards, gain a life, get rid of one of your threats. Decide the Earwig Squad, even though it couldn't attack anyways. Another Commune with the Spirits. Look at the top 4. The land grabbed there was Sarah's Sanctum, which is going to generate just so very much mana. This is Gaia's Cradle for enchantments. Pretty good in the Enchantress deck. So if Alex can find the Destiny Spinner, which I think he's just had in his hand this whole time, then he can make just enormous creatures. Which I think is what he's planning to do, and just making sure that he has enough mana to do so. Counting up his mana, what's that one tapping for? 3, 4, 5, 6. He has 6 mana here with his 2 basic forests. And then if he plays that Sarah's Sanctum, we see another On Thin Ice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 enchantments in play currently. A Caracas coming down. That's interesting. I'm not sure what the Caracas would be for. Muxus maybe? Do have access to 6 mana. Alex just passing the turn back. Seven mana. See the Snoop. Have the Harbinger in hand. Can set up for the combo. We do know that Alex has the Swords of Plowshares, unfortunately. So there's the swords for the Snoop. And he's out of here. And that was basically the last chance. Alex shows the Destiny Spinner and the Sarah's Sanctum, but I said, let's play it out. He decides to go do all of his checks and everything. Sarah's Sanctum comes into play. Can tap for 16 mana now. Counts it up. And then just need a little bit of green mana, which is already floated with the other basic. Has 2 attackers. It's going to use all that mana. Those 2 lands are going to attack. Rishadenport, one of them. And it's actually 17 damage. And that is exactly enough, as my guy is only a 1/1 because of the Plague Engineer. Not the best showing of the Goblins deck, but Enchantress really powering through all of those enchantments and creating a great lock that paid off in the end with those huge 17/17 attackers. Thanks again for joining us for another round of Tuesday Night Legacy. We really appreciate you watching the whole video and everything. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. And if you got something to say about the decks, why don't you leave a comment? Thanks again to Spellhold Games for allowing us to record in their space. We wouldn't exist without you. And finally, our next match is going to be a return of Oops All Spells against Blue-Red Delver. We'll see you next time.